compass, probably humanity's most revolutionary invention that started as a fortune-telling device. Today we're exploring how a simple magnetic rock changed the course of human history forever.
You know what fascinates me most? Before anyone had a compass, our ancestors were already incredible navigators, using nothing but the sky as their guide.
That's right. The Egyptians, Greeks, and Chinese developed these amazing systems using celestial bodies. Though I can't help but think about how terrifying it must have been, trying to navigate during storms or cloudy nights.
So how did we get from reading stars to using magnetic navigation?
Well, it all started in China with these naturally magnetic rocks called lodestones. Here's the wild part. They weren't even using them for navigation at first. They were part of ancient fortune-telling rituals.
Oh, that's exactly what makes this story so fascinating. These mystical rocks eventually transformed into tools that would change exploration forever.
By the 11th century, Chinese engineers had figured out how to mount magnetized needles on platforms marked with constellations. And get this, the famous polymath Shen Kuo documented their use, marking the first scientific record of magnetic navigation.
Though I've heard there's something really counterintuitive about how compasses actually work. Something about true north versus magnetic north?
You're going to love this. The compass doesn't actually point to the geographic North Pole at all. Instead, it aligns with Earth's magnetic field, which is generated by molten iron in our planet's core. And here's the mind-bending part. The north end of a compass needle is actually attracted to Earth's magnetic South Pole.
Well, that must have caused some serious confusion for early navigators.
Absolutely right. And it gets even more complicated. The magnetic North Pole isn't even staying put. It's moving about 55 kilometers per year toward Russia, which means navigators constantly have to account for something called declination, the angle between true north and magnetic north.
So how did early explorers deal with all these complications?
You know, they developed increasingly sophisticated tools. The real game changer came in 1745, when Gowen Knight introduced the steel needle. Unlike previous materials, steel could hold its magnetism reliably for much longer periods.
Though even with the best compass, there was still another major problem to solve, figuring out longitude, right?
Exactly. Direction was only part of the puzzle. The breakthrough came with the marine chronometer, which could maintain precise time at sea. By comparing local time with Greenwich Mean Time, sailors could finally calculate their exact position on Earth.
And now we've got all these different types: magnetic, gyroscopic, electronic. It's amazing how far we've come from those first fortune-telling stones.
The gyro compass is particularly fascinating because it doesn't rely on magnetism at all. Instead, it uses a rapidly spinning wheel to find true north, making it immune to magnetic interference. These are especially crucial on modern steel ships, where traditional magnetic compasses would go haywire.
Though isn't it remarkable that even with all our modern technology, the basic magnetic compass is still considered essential backup equipment?
That's what I find most impressive about this whole story. GPS satellites can fail, batteries can die, but a well-made magnetic compass will keep pointing north as long as Earth's magnetic field exists. It's truly one of humanity's most reliable inventions.
So what would you say is the compass's greatest legacy in human history?
Without question, it's how this simple tool expanded our understanding of the world. It enabled the age of exploration, facilitated global trade routes, and helped create our interconnected world. From those early Chinese fortune-telling stones to modern GPS systems, the compass has been guiding humanity forward for over 2 millennia.
And that's really what makes this story so incredible. How a simple observation about some magnetic rocks led to one of the most important inventions in human history.
Remember, whether you're using your smartphone's GPS or an old-school magnetic compass, you're part of a navigational legacy that spans thousands of years and countless adventures.
And next time you check your phone for directions, take a moment to appreciate how far we've come from those first lodestones in ancient China.
Welcome to the Explorationist. In today's episode, we'll explore one of the most fundamental tools in human navigation, the compass. This device has allowed explorers to cross vast oceans, chart new territories, and reshape human history. But did you know that the North Pole of a compass is actually not pointing to the geographic North Pole at all, but to the magnetic south? This episode will not only explain how the compass works, but also dive deep into the fascinating history and science behind this essential tool. So, buckle up as we journey into the world of compasses and the remarkable history they've helped shape. Long before the invention of the compass, early humans had already developed an understanding of cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. Ancient civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Greeks and Chinese, based their sense of direction on observable natural phenomena. The sun's rise and set helped people recognize the east and west, while the stars, especially the North Star, Polaris, helped them determine the north. For early travelers, these celestial bodies provided critical orientation, guiding them across the vast and often treacherous landscapes. The basic understanding of these cardinal directions laid the foundation for early navigation. But despite their reliance on the stars, the lack of a reliable tool meant that travel could be hazardous, especially when the skies were obscured by clouds or in regions where landmarks were scarce. As civilizations advanced, so did their need for more reliable means of navigation. By the 11th century, the Chinese made a groundbreaking discovery. They developed the magnetic compass, a tool that harnessed the Earth's magnetic field to provide a more consistent and accurate way to navigate. But how did this device work, and how did it come to be? The roots of the compass can be traced back to ancient China. While the first uses of the magnetized lodestones were not for navigation, they soon became critical to early Chinese practices like Feng Shui, the Taoist system of harmonizing environments. Lodestones, which are naturally magnetized rocks, had a unique property. When suspended freely, they would always align themselves along the north-south axis. By the 4th century BC, Chinese fortune tellers were using these lodestones for their divination practices. However, it wasn't long before Chinese engineers and scientists recognized the potential of these magnetized stones for navigation. The first rudimentary compasses were developed, consisting of a magnetized needle mounted on a platform, typically marked with celestial constellations and cardinal points. These early compasses, although simple, provided reliable orientation, especially for travelers journeying at night or across vast, featureless landscapes. The compass played a crucial role during the Age of Exploration. For centuries, European mariners relied on the stars to guide their way, but this method had limitations. Without the compass, they were restricted in the range of their voyages, as stars could not be observed at all times and in all locations. The compass, however, provided an unfailing and reliable tool that enabled explorers to venture beyond known waters. One of the most famous figures in this period, Christopher Columbus, relied heavily on the compass to navigate the Atlantic in search of a westward route to Asia. Although Columbus's understanding of the world was limited, and he was unaware of the Americas, the compass allowed him to chart a steady course, leading to the unexpected discovery of a new continent. Similarly, Ferdinand Magellan, during his historic circumnavigation of the globe, depended on the compass to maintain his bearings across the vast, uncharted waters. Without the compass, the journey would have been even more treacherous, with the risk of losing their way in the middle of the vast Pacific Ocean. The compass allowed these explorers to map new territories, establish trade routes, and make significant contributions to the understanding of our planet's geography. One of the most intriguing aspects of the compass is that it doesn't point to the geographic North Pole. Instead, it points to what's called magnetic north. The Earth itself behaves like a giant magnet. It has a magnetic field, which is generated by the movement of molten iron in the outer core. This magnetic field creates a magnetic North Pole and a magnetic South Pole, which are not located at the geographic poles. The compass needle aligns itself with the Earth's magnetic field, pointing towards the magnetic north. But here's the twist. The compass needle's north end is actually attracted to the south pole of the Earth's magnetic field. So, when the compass points north, it's actually pointing towards the magnetic South Pole. This is why the North Pole of the compass is actually the South Pole of the Earth's magnetic field. This terminology is a bit misleading, and over time, it has stuck despite our increased understanding of magnetism. Early navigators simply noticed that the needle always pointed toward a specific area in the northern hemisphere, and that was labeled north, even though they didn't yet understand the full nature of the magnetic interaction. The Earth's magnetic field isn't static, it's constantly changing. Over time, the position of the magnetic North Pole shifts, which has significant consequences for navigation. This phenomenon is known as magnetic declination. Declination refers to the angle between true north, the geographic North Pole, and magnetic north, the point toward which the compass needle points. The amount of declination varies depending on where you are on the planet and changes over time as the magnetic North Pole slowly moves. For example, in some parts of the world, magnetic north is significantly to the east or west of true north, and over the years, this magnetic pole has been moving at a rate of about 55 kilometers per year. Historically, Sir James Clark Ross was the first to discover the magnetic North Pole in 1831 in northern Canada. Since then, the pole has been migrating toward Russia. This constant movement means navigational charts need regular updates to account for shifting declination. Navigators who fail to account for declination could find themselves far off course, which is particularly problematic for long voyages or when traversing large bodies of water. As the compass gained prominence, so too did its design. Early compasses, as simple as they were, underwent various innovations. By the 17th century, the compass needle had evolved from a simple bar to a more balanced shape, like a parallelogram, improving its stability and accuracy. One of the most important advancements came in 1745, when English inventor Gowan Knight introduced the steel needle. Unlike the softer materials previously used, steel retained its magnetism far longer and more reliably, making the compass more accurate over time. Compasses also began to be encased in metal cases to protect the delicate needle from wind, moisture, and other environmental factors. These early dry-fill compasses became the standard for many years, allowing navigators to carry their compasses with them safely, even on long voyages across the open seas. While the compass revolutionized directional navigation, explorers faced another challenge: determining their longitude. Longitude is the east-west position on Earth, and without an accurate timepiece, it was incredibly difficult to measure. By comparing local time, calculated by the sun's position, to the time at a known location, such as Greenwich Mean Time, sailors could determine their longitude. However, accurate timekeeping at sea was incredibly difficult, leading to centuries of exploration without reliable longitude measurements. The breakthrough came with the invention of the marine chronometer, a precise and reliable clock that allowed sailors to track time accurately even at sea. This innovation, along with the compass, enabled explorers to chart their exact positions on the globe and made long-distance navigation much more reliable. The gyro compass, for example, is a type of compass that doesn't rely on the Earth's magnetic field. Instead, it uses a spinning gyroscope to determine true north, unaffected by magnetic disturbances or the shifting magnetic field. Gyro compasses are particularly useful on ships, airplanes, and in situations where a magnetic compass might be unreliable, such as near large metal structures or during magnetic storms. Today, electronic compasses are also widely used in conjunction with GPS technology. These devices use satellite signals and advanced algorithms to not only pinpoint your location, but also provide accurate directional information, making navigation more precise than ever before. The compass was instrumental in opening new frontiers during the age of exploration, allowing explorers to navigate vast and previously uncharted oceans. But its impact didn't stop there. The compass also revolutionized land exploration, guiding adventurers across deserts, mountains, and through dense forests to map new territories. From the early days of European exploration to modern-day adventurers, the compass has played an essential role in shaping our understanding of the world. It has been crucial for scientific discovery, enabling geographical surveys, astronomical observations, and the exploration of new territories. In modern times, the compass, though no longer the primary means of navigation, continues to serve as a vital tool for adventurers, sailors, pilots, and scientists alike. As we continue to explore new horizons, both on Earth and beyond, the legacy of the compass lives on, guiding humanity into the future. Okay, so now I will regale you with yet another riveting tale from my career as an explorationist. Back in the 1990s, I was asked to go to Trinidad and Tobago as the chief surveyor for a 2D seismic project that covered the entire island. This was my first overseas assignment, and going to a Caribbean island to work sounded great to me at the time. My father had passed away from lung cancer a year earlier, and my mother was in England visiting relatives when she became gravely ill. She was on death's door, so I arranged for my brother and wife to visit her in my stead, while I focused on packing up and moving to Ontario to be closer to her during her recovery. Life had dealt me several harsh blows by then. I had endured years of misfortune, including the collapse of a seismic surveying business due to a market downturn and a partner abandoning me with debt I couldn't cover. We had to sell our home and move into a rental while dreaming of building a home on some land. Adding to the sorrow, my wife's brother died from brain cancer. Financially, things were grim, though an opportunity to move to Calgary to manage a seismic surveying company had provided a glimmer of hope. However, upon arriving in Calgary, I was told, "You're too valuable in the field." And as a consolation, they offered to send me overseas to Trinidad and Tobago. I decided it was best to move to Ontario to be near family, but almost immediately I was sent overseas. Hoping to make the best of the situation, I took the assignment, seeing the increased salary as a way to chip away at my business debt. So I left for Trinidad, leaving my family behind. One of the reasons I was chosen for the project was my recently acquired proficiency in setting up GPS control. Upon arrival, the first task was to find accommodations for the crew, which was standard procedure in every country I worked. The project manager and I ended up renting a building that had once been a combination grocery store and motel, a term I use loosely. The motel's rooms were rented by the hour, and each had glass ceilings, double Naugahyde beds, and bathrooms, essentially rooms designed for easy cleaning with a fire hose. We renovated the building, keeping the rooms for key staff, while transforming the former grocery store's ground floor into a kitchen and office space. As chief surveyor, my job was to take the maps provided by the oil company, lay out the 2D seismic lines, and oversee the surveying for the drilling and recording crews. The first step was to determine where the seismic lines needed to go, establish control points at the start, middle, and end of each line, and set targets so surveyors could traverse the lines accurately. These seismic lines stretched across Trinidad in various directions, crossing old wells and oil-rich terrain. To prepare the lines, I hired local crews to clear paths about 1 to 2 meters wide through the jungle using mechanical cutters. This allowed the drilling crews to carry their equipment to each designated shot hole. A typical day involves setting a control point along an access road, calculating its position relative to the seismic line, and then traversing to the line's starting point. From there, I set targets in the direction the line would run, either by calculating the azimuth using coordinates or by using a protractor on a map. For the jungle work, I hired 2 local men recommended by a Trinidadian surveyor I had brought onto the team. I trained these men to use a compass for traversing the jungle with machetes and survey flagging, creating a path for the mechanical cutting crew to follow. They learned quickly and became some of the best compass men I've ever worked with. Despite obstacles like trees that forced them to reroute, they managed to produce remarkably accurate lines. Once the compass men were trained and working efficiently, I moved ahead to set GPS points and calculate where the seismic lines should intersect roads. It was incredibly satisfying to flag the spot where I thought the line would emerge from the jungle and see the compass men's line emerge within mere meters of my mark. We adjusted the compasses for declination and periodically calibrated them between 2 GPS points to ensure accuracy. This experience remains one of the most fulfilling of my career, as it closely mirrored the methods used by early explorers. Learning to use a compass is immensely rewarding, especially when you can plan a route and end up exactly where you intended. We spent nearly a year cutting lines through the jungle, and it all worked out beautifully thanks to the skill of my compass men. You have been listening to The Explorationist. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to tune in next week, where I shall regale you once again.